Phil, we got a few questions, and this kind of relates to the school district here, and especially Code of the Union here, and that is funding. It's a big issue here. We're not seeing any new dollars coming into the system, and yet we have all this technology, and we're supposed to be changing the way we're teaching and stuff. How can we do that on limited resources, limited funding?
I think it's an excellent question. I think funding is part of the conversation. I think the cost of technology is a big piece, not just buying the technology, but the sustainability of it. You know, how you can keep it up to date because it changes so quickly, and the evergreening. And then there's other elements related to that. There's access. Do parents at home have access to the internet or resources maybe that are online? So it's not just the cost of the hardware and the technology, but it's the access in rural versus the urban spaces. It's the support, the professional development support, the technical support in the schools. A lot of the issues now are popping up. You know, the technology may be there, and they don't have the support from a technical side. Or there may be new software programs that are implemented without professional development support that are mandated programs or in other ways. And then I think the other piece that's not talked about related to the cost is the complexity. How complex is the technology that's being put into the class? Is it so complex and so clunky that people won't take it up? So in an environment of smaller resources, to answer your question particularly about what do we do as teachers wanting to advance technology or use technology in empowering ways, we have to be really clear on what we want to use and why we want to use it, and ultimately how does that help build that highly relational learning environment? How does that help support what's going on in the classroom? Or perhaps the technologies and the investments go into areas where we have at-risk students or exceptionalities where we need to really invest and see a difference. So instead of trying to think about it as we're going to apply technology equally, we need to apply technology equitably, where there's the best kind of payoff with the use of it, or it can meet the greatest needs.
Okay, thanks, Phil. Phil, just another question there, because you brought this up here in the equity, and you mentioned the at-risk kids. Now, how do you see technology being advantageous to the at-risk kids, let's say over in the classroom?
Well, I was just 2 days ago with a young woman who has cerebral palsy and was using technology to give her voice, to communicate, to build a relationship, and to sit with her and see how that technology gave her a voice that she actually didn't have previously, and let her interact with her peers and teachers in ways that she hadn't in the past. I think those kinds of technologies are incredibly powerful and empowering. And I think we need to really think about technologies that work in that way, that give people a voice who may not have it, or assistive or adaptive technologies that help adapt and extend somebody's ability. Because if it's a technology as basic as glasses or contacts that I have in, it allows me to navigate the world and to see the world in ways that without it I would be limited. So that technology of glasses or even contacts is giving me more of an ability to explore the world. And I think with exceptionalities, be they gifted or not on a spectrum of exceptionalities, we need to really encourage the use of technologies that help extend their abilities or give people voice or help them adapt to a rapidly changing world.
So your definition, or what you've just explained here, what technologies are, is a little different than what some people think, such as the publishing companies. So they're looking at the technologies a lot in the sense of can almost replace teachers. And so they could actually test students, and then depending on the weaknesses there, they can supply the material that they need to actually advance them there. So I'm hearing from you that's not the case.
Yeah,
that's not the way to use it.
It isn't, absolutely not. I think what's happening right now is we're in a data boom. And we see not just publishing companies, but a lot of groups outside of the public education system looking to get access to student data through testing in many cases. And that's so they can remarket resources back to either the parents or school districts and basically sell them product. That's why when you mentioned the publishing companies, this is happening through adaptive learning systems where they try and develop these algorithms or software programs that will test kids and then make recommendations or teach them, right? The rebirth of a teaching machine, which I wrote an article on. But I don't think, first of all, that's helpful because it reduces curriculum, it reduces learning to really only that which can be tested and put into these algorithms. And learning is much more complex. It also, behind it, is an economy to try and have larger class sizes and smaller teachers, and then it becomes almost a sit in front of the computer program with a drill mentality, a very didactic learning modality. And we're sitting here in a lecture theater which is all row-based. That's not the way learning is anymore. Learning is much more interactive and engaging. And as we move down this path, we have to resist looking at technology as a solution if it reduces learning, reduces curriculum, and really moves it back into some of the privacy issues, which is trying to capture student data in ways that are not helpful, especially as teachers are the guardians not only of students' dignity, but in many cases we have to be aware of how their data is being used if in fact these software programs, publishers that are selling these to school districts, if that data is being repackaged and resold, or somehow that data is being used to sell back to parents or the district. So we as teachers have to be very aware of how the student data is used and the privacy implications.
Thanks, Phil. Okay, another one that's come up here is, teachers here, some of them are a little reluctant to bring in the new technologies and feel that it's not helping in developing the relationships that they want with the students. What would you suggest? What would be a happy medium, let's say, between I'm assuming what you're saying here is it's important that we're aware of the technologies and we actually use them where it suits best, but we also have to have the other part as well. So what do we do here?
Yeah, I think we actually respect the professional autonomy of teachers who say that with their particular context. It's very contextual for me how people embrace or use technology. You might have a teacher that works in an environment where those kids are using technology in their home lives to a great extent, and actually what they need at school are some other relational things that need to happen, or other activities that are helping to build them as a whole person. You might have another population where the teacher says these young people don't have access to the internet at home or other technologies, and we need to help them learn what it looks like. Or we need to help build citizenship for a digital age, and therefore in the school environment we need to use these technologies more to give them that experience and exposure. So I don't think, I think what we should do is really respect the autonomy of the teacher and what they're coming to us with as a conversation, and then to talk about it as professionals and say, in this context, the rationale they have for embracing technology or not really makes sense. And also to respect what they're seeing on the front line. If they're seeing the use of technology in their classroom as distracting young people, or the students' use of technology, or it's not connecting them, it's disconnecting them, right? Whether it's through cyberbullying or others, then there need to be interventions. If, however, they see it as enhancing and connecting, then how do we learn from their experiences and share with other teachers? So I think the most important thing is to respect the autonomy of the teacher and think about their context and what they're telling us.
Okay, Phil, those answer the questions that we have here. I certainly appreciate your time here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.